Have you ever wondered how to accurately count calories when eating out at a restaurant? Well, in today's video, I'm going to go over the 3 things that you can do to make sure that you are counting calories accurately when you go out to eat. What's going on, everybody? My name is Ryan Johnson from Intermittent Fasting with Ryan. Over the last 11 months, I've lost 60 pounds following an intermittent fasting routine. And if you're new here and interested in sustainable weight loss tips and strategies, be sure to click subscribe now. Hey, so how to count calories when going out to eat is a question that I'm getting all of the time. And in this video, I'm gonna go over exactly what you need to do in order to count the calories and be as accurate as possible when eating out. So the very first thing that I would say is it's so important for you, whenever you start counting calories, it's very important to measure and weigh out all of your food. And you're gonna see why here in just a minute, why that's important when it's time to go and eat out at a restaurant. So the first thing that I would say, whenever I go out to eat somewhere, the very first thing that I'm doing is I'm pulling up MyFitnessPal and I'm gonna look in there and see if the restaurant that I'm eating at already has their calories in the app. Now, there are a lot of calorie counting apps out there for you to use, but for me personally, I use MyFitnessPal, and there's 2 reasons for that. The first is it's very easy to use, it's very easy to navigate and easy to understand. And the second is there's a very large library of calories that are already in the app to include a lot of the restaurants that you're already eating at. So the first thing that I do when I go to a restaurant is I look and see if it's already in MyFitnessPal and the item that I'm gonna choose to eat for dinner is already in there. And that is just that simple. You know, I select the item and I add the calories. The next thing that I do is, and this is why it's important for you to measure and track your foods from the beginning when you're counting calories, is because if I go out to eat and the restaurant that I'm eating at isn't already in MyFitnessPal, what I'm gonna do is I'm going to break the meal down into its component parts. And what do I mean by that? So let's say I go out and I order some steak tacos that come with rice and beans with a little bit of cheese on top of the refried beans. The way that I would enter that into MyFitnessPal is I'm going to break it up into the component parts. Because I've been measuring my food all along and advise you to do the same, you get really good at looking at an amount of food and knowing how much it weighs just by looking at it, because you build that muscle memory. For my example of steak tacos with rice and beans with cheese on top, I'm gonna add the flour tortillas. And generally in MyFitnessPal, you can select a size of flour tortilla. Generally, if I'm getting the street tacos, it's gonna be the 6-inch shells. So I'm gonna add those individual shells. If I'm having 3 tacos, you know, I would add 3 of those. I'm gonna look at the tacos and kind of guesstimate how much meat there is. And I'm going to add sirloin meat or skirt steak, depending on what kind of steak it is. I'm just gonna add the appropriate amount of ounces. Then I'm gonna look in MyFitnessPal and add the Mexican rice, the refried beans, and a serving of cheese. So the way that you do that when you go out to eat is you can break a meal down into its component parts. And the third way that I recommend for you to add your calories when you're out to eat at a restaurant is, say you're getting something that's hard to break down into its component parts. That's gonna be something like a jambalaya, for example. A jambalaya or shrimp and grits. Now, shrimp and grits is something that I'm getting a lot, and whenever I go to add something like that, something that's hard to break down to its component parts, is I'm going to look up the meal itself, and I'm just going to look at the portion and decide whether it's a big portion, a small portion, or a medium portion. And I'm going to look in MyFitnessPal, if I were to look up shrimp and grits, I'm gonna look at the 3 average size calories for the shrimp and grits option. And there's usually one that's a high calorie, one that's a medium calorie, and one that's a low calorie. And most of the time, I'm gonna go for the one that's in that medium calorie. Unless I know that it's high in calories, meaning there's a lot of extra fat and a lot of extra things in it. Generally, if something tastes really, really good, I'm erring on the side of I'm gonna go with that higher calorie option. But again, when you can't break something down to its components parts, just look up the meal and go with that kind of middle of the road option. You don't have to be perfect. The important thing is that you are being consistent. So whenever you're out to eat, whatever way you're going to choose to measure, just measure consistently, because if you're either wrong, high or low, or if you're spot on the money, as long as you're doing it the same over time, that's the most important thing. So again, there's 3 ways that you can do it. You can either find the restaurant in MyFitnessPal and add the item there. You can break a meal down to its component parts and add each of those items by themselves for the meal. Or you can look up the meal and choose the one that has the middle amount of calories. Unless, again, it's a really decadent meal, you can go ahead and select the one that's a high calorie. We just want to try to be as accurate as possible. But the biggest thing is you need to make it so it's easy for you to do and that you can do it over and over again, because the most important thing when setting out on a weight loss journey is you find a way to be consistent, because in the end, consistency and accurately and consistently counting your calories, it's what's going to lead to that success. You don't have to be perfect, you just have to be in the habit of doing it over and over again, and over time that's going to add up to great success. Hey, so if you've enjoyed this video and are interested in getting started on your own intermittent fasting journey, I'm going to leave some videos on the screen now. I encourage you to check those out. And remember, we're not looking to lose weight fast, we're looking to lose weight forever.